Throughout history, fruit has never been just food. In the myths and superstitions of countless cultures, it has been temptation, symbol, and sometimes a trap laid by the devil himself. Look closely. The apple that lured humanity into sin, the blackberry that villagers swore was spat upon by Satan, the nightshade berries that witches used in their poisons, even the banana groves of Southeast Asia, where locals whispered of ghosts offering fruit under the moonlight. Each of these fruits promised sweetness, but carried shadows just as deep. Why did people fear them? Was it their color, red like blood, black like night? Was it their abundance, too tempting to resist? Or was it because they reminded us that pleasure often comes at a price? Whatever the reason, these stories survived, woven into folklore and whispered across generations. And yet, among all these dark fruits, one stands above the rest. Ranked number one, it looks harmless, even joyful, a fruit of summer, of picnics, of laughter. But in Africa's deserts and Europe's villages, it was once feared as a cursed feast, its flesh mistaken for blood, its seeds for the eyes of demons, and its sweetness said to be the devil's bait for the living. That fruit will be our final reveal. And once you see it through the eyes of folklore, you may never eat it the same way again. Number 10. Pineapple, the devil's bait of the Caribbean. In the lush tropics of the Caribbean, where volcanic soil feeds both orchards and legends, there grows a fruit as dangerous as it is delicious, the pineapple. Today we see it as a symbol of welcome, sweetness, and summer feasts. But in the whispers of old island folklore, this golden fruit was something darker, a lure for wandering spirits, a bait laid by the devil himself. The pineapple is native to South America, later carried across the Caribbean, where farmers learned its slow secret. Unlike other fruits, it grows close to the ground, armored in thorny leaves, needing nearly 2 years of care for a single harvest. Its skin is tough, scaled like armor, while its crown bristles like horns. Inside, however, the flesh is golden, dripping with honeyed juice, sweetness wrapped in spikes, beauty with a warning. To the shamans of the islands, that sweetness was more than flavor. It was temptation. When a pineapple ripens, its fragrance can carry for miles. Legends warned that this scent could draw not only animals, but restless souls and malevolent spirits. Families left pineapples at crossroads or near cemeteries as offerings, hoping the fruit would lure demons away. Priests arriving from Europe, unsettled by both its intoxicating taste and its fiery effect on the body, even branded it Fructus diabolicus, the devil's fruit. And perhaps they were not entirely wrong. In the 17th century, a single pineapple carried across the ocean could fetch the price of land, a treasure hoarded and flaunted by the wealthy. To possess one was to flirt with greed, indulgence, and desire. Was it just a fruit, or the devil's crown in disguise? So, next time you slice into its golden flesh, remember the shadows hidden beneath its sweetness. The pineapple is more than a tropical delight. It is a fruit once feared as the devil's bait, a reminder that temptation often comes dressed in beauty and sometimes crowned in thorns. Number 9. Blackberry, the devil's bramble. Across the hedgerows of Europe, where tangled thorns crawl over fields and ancient paths, there grows a fruit both beloved and feared, the blackberry. Sweet, dark, and wild, its berries have fed peasants for centuries. Yet behind that sweetness lies a shadow. In medieval folklore, the blackberry bush was known as the devil's bramble, a plant cursed with thorns sharp enough to draw blood and fruit dark enough to hide secrets. Geographically, blackberries thrive across temperate Europe, North Africa, and the Americas. They are hardy plants, almost too hardy, spreading fast, covering ruins, choking fences, and reclaiming abandoned fields. Their fruit ripens from green to red to deep black, each berry a cluster of tiny globes shining like drops of ink. To farmers, they were both a blessing and a curse, food for the poor, but also an invasive bramble that seemed impossible to tame. In folklore, the blackberry carried darker associations. It was said that after Michaelmas, the feast of St. Michael in late September, the devil himself spat on the berries, making them bitter and unfit to eat. In other regions, people believed witches used blackberry thickets as gateways, weaving spells where the thorny branches grew thickest. Passing through a blackberry arch was thought to invite bad luck, perhaps even a pact with darker forces. The thorns gave weight to these beliefs. Blackberry brambles wound tightly, their hooks tearing flesh and clothing. For medieval villagers, to struggle through such a plant was to risk not just scratches, but symbolic wounds, offerings of blood to the devil lurking within the thicket. Some even claimed that the crown of thorns placed upon Christ's head was woven from blackberry branches, sealing its reputation as a cursed plant. And yet, the berries themselves were irresistible, rich, sweet, staining lips and fingers like wine. Perhaps that was the final irony. The devil's bramble offered temptation in fruit, but pain in pursuit. To taste sweetness, one had to bleed. So when you see a blackberry bush heavy with fruit, remember its double nature. It is food and thorn, sweetness and curse, a plant once branded the devil's own. The bramble gives, but never freely, a reminder that even the darkest fruits demand a price. Number 8. Nightshade berry, the witch's poisoned fruit. In the shadowy corners of European forests, hidden among ivy and nettle, grows a plant as beautiful as it is deadly. Its berries, small, glossy, and black as midnight, glisten like jewels in the underbrush. But to taste even one is to invite death. This is the nightshade, Atropa belladonna, long known as the witch's poisoned fruit. Geographically, nightshade thrives in Central and Southern Europe, stretching into North Africa and Western Asia. It prefers shaded woodlands and abandoned fields, where its purple flowers bloom quietly before giving way to clusters of shiny black berries. At first glance, they appear harmless, resembling wild cherries. But inside each berry lurks alkaloids, atropine, scopolamine, chemicals powerful enough to paralyze, to blur vision, to silence a heartbeat. Folklore embraced its danger. In the Middle Ages, nightshade was the herb of witches, used in potions, flying ointments, and rituals whispered in the dark. Legends told of covens smearing its juices on their skin, believing it let them soar through the night. Others feared it as the very food of demons, a fruit that lured the curious to their doom. To the church, the plant became proof of witchcraft, its presence in a garden enough to brand someone a servant of the devil. Its very name carries myth. Atropa honors Atropos, one of the three fates in Greek mythology, the one who cut the thread of life. Belladonna, meaning beautiful woman, recalls how Renaissance women once used drops of the plant to dilate their pupils, creating a dark, seductive gaze. Beauty and death bound together in a single fruit. Economically, nightshade has little value as food, but immense significance in medicine. Modern pharmacology extracts its alkaloids for anesthesia, eye surgery, and treatment of spasms. Still, its danger persists. A handful of berries can kill a child. A miscalculated dose can kill an adult. And so, the nightshade remains a paradox, a fruit that heals and kills, a beauty that deceives, a jewel of the forest that belongs as much to witches as to apothecaries. When you see its berries glisten in the twilight, remember, this is not food. This is the witch's poisoned fruit, a reminder that the devil's temptations do not always appear in flames. Sometimes they gleam quietly in the dark. Number 7. Fig, the forbidden fruit of desire. In the arid valleys of the Middle East, beneath sun-scorched skies and ancient groves, grows a fruit whose history is as old as civilization itself. The fig, soft, sweet, and bursting with seeds, it has nourished empires and inspired myths. Yet in scripture, legend, and whispered tradition, the fig became something darker, a symbol of shame, temptation, and forbidden desire. The fig tree thrives across the Mediterranean, the Levant, and Mesopotamia. It is hardy, capable of pushing roots deep into dry soil, producing fruit even in harsh climates. A ripe fig is unlike other fruits, bulbous, soft-skinned, filled with countless seeds that glisten like tiny eyes. Its flesh is sweet, sticky, almost intoxicating, a taste that ancient poets compared to love itself. But where there is sweetness, suspicion often follows. In the Bible, after Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit in Eden, they sewed fig leaves together to cover their nakedness. For many traditions, this linked the fig forever to human shame and awakening desire. Some scholars even suggest that the forbidden fruit was not an apple at all, but a fig, a fruit heavy with sensual imagery, its interior a symbol of fertility and hidden passion. In Greco-Roman culture, the fig was sacred to Dionysus and Priapus, gods of revelry and lust. Its shape and abundance of seeds made it a natural emblem of fertility, but also of indulgence. Festivals offered figs as tributes to spirits of pleasure, binding the fruit to both celebration and sin. In medieval Europe, whispers spread that figs were fruits of excess, tempting the body and luring the soul toward desire's abyss. Even its leaves carry symbolism. While they hid the nakedness of Adam and Eve, they also marked humanity's first attempt to disguise sin. A fig leaf was never just a leaf. It was a veil of guilt, a fragile cover for temptation already tasted. Economically, figs have been valuable for millennia, traded along the Silk Road, dried and stored as food for armies and travelers. Yet their worth was not measured only in nourishment. To some, the fig was priceless for another reason. It carried the mark of forbidden knowledge. So, when you open a fig and see its crimson seeds glisten in the sun, remember, you are not just eating fruit. You are tasting the forbidden fruit of desire, a reminder that temptation often hides in sweetness, and that even the most ancient harvest can carry the shadow of sin. Number 6. Tomato, the devil's apple. Bright, red, and glistening in the sun, the tomato looks harmless, even inviting. Today, it is a staple of kitchens worldwide, the heart of sauces, soups, and salads. But not so long ago, this fruit was feared. In Europe of the 16th and 17th centuries, it was whispered about in markets and taverns as Pomum diabolicum, the devil's apple. The tomato is native to South America, domesticated first by the Aztecs, who called it tomato. It thrived in the warm valleys of Mexico, where farmers cultivated varieties from golden yellow to deep crimson. Spanish explorers brought it back across the Atlantic, planting it in Mediterranean gardens. But in this foreign soil, its fate took a darker turn. Its appearance was suspicious. The glossy red skin reminded Europeans of deadly nightshade berries, long associated with witches and poison. To eat a tomato seemed to invite illness, even death. Some claimed the fruit carried curses. Others said that witches used its juice in potions, binding it to sorcery. Its leaves and stems, toxic in large doses, only fueled the rumors. For generations, many would not dare to bite into the devil's apple. But fear had another source: wealth and power. In the 17th century, the tomato was often served on pewter plates, whose lead content reacted with the fruit's acidity. Diners who ate such meals sometimes fell ill, even died. To the public, it was proof enough. The tomato was cursed, poison in the guise of food. Yet, slowly, suspicion gave way to fascination. By the 18th century, Italian cooks discovered its sweetness when cooked into sauce. The devil's apple transformed into the golden apple, a fruit of prosperity. But the shadow of its reputation lingered. Even today, in parts of Europe, old superstitions still whisper that tomatoes attract both passion and misfortune, a fruit of fire, both nourishing and dangerous. So when you slice open a tomato and see its red flesh spill seeds like drops of blood, remember its past. This is not just a kitchen staple. It is the devil's apple, a fruit once feared, cursed, and branded a tool of witches. Sweetness and poison, side by side in a single bite. Number 5. Date palm fruit, the demon's offering. In the burning deserts of the Middle East, where survival depends on oasis and shade, rises a tree revered for millennia, the date palm. Its fruit, sweet, chewy, and nourishing, sustained Bedouin travelers, built economies, and symbolized abundance. Yet hidden within old myths and religious whispers is another image: the date as a fruit of the underworld, an offering to demons and restless spirits. The date palm, Phoenix dactylifera, grows across North Africa, Arabia, and Mesopotamia. It is hardy, reaching deep with its roots to find water beneath the sand, producing heavy clusters of fruit, golden brown when dried, glossy and soft when fresh. Dates have been called bread of the desert. A single tree can yield hundreds of pounds of fruit, making it a symbol of life itself in barren lands. But in folklore, abundance can carry shadows. Among some ancient Mesopotamian cults, dates were left at tombs as offerings for the dead, meant to appease spirits so they would not rise in anger. In Jewish and Islamic traditions, the palm was sacred, but stories circulated that demons lingered in abandoned groves, feasting on fallen fruit. In medieval superstition, to eat dates at night was to invite wandering jinn or the touch of the devil himself. The symbolism grew stronger because of its dual nature: nourishment on one hand, temptation on the other. Sweetness could easily become excess, and excess, in the eyes of ascetics, was sin. Monks, in the early Christian deserts of Egypt, sometimes warned against indulging too heavily in dates, calling them fruits of weakness, gifts that the devil might use to lure the faithful away from discipline. Economically, dates carried enormous weight. Caravans loaded with them crossed the Silk Road, and rulers collected taxes in dried fruit. But with wealth came corruption, and with corruption came whispers that dates, abundant and seductive, were the demon's offering, a sweetness that led nations into greed. Today, we eat them without fear, wrapped in honey or stuffed with almonds. Yet, the shadow of their legend lingers. The next time you bite into a date, remember its double history. It is not only food for the living, but once it was seen as food for the dead, an offering to demons in the desert night. Number 4. Banana, the ghost's fruit of temptation. In the humid nights of Southeast Asia, where mist clings to banana groves and shadows ripple between tall leaves, there grows a fruit as ordinary as it is uncanny, the banana. To most of the world, it is a symbol of nourishment and sweetness. But in folklore from Thailand to Vietnam, it carries a darker association. Here, the banana is not merely food, it is the ghost's fruit of temptation. Bananas grow in lush, tropical soils across Asia, Africa, and the Americas. Their cultivation is ancient, dating back thousands of years in Papua New Guinea and India. A single plant produces clusters of fruit shaped like golden crescents, soft and sweet inside, a natural source of energy. Yet in Southeast Asian tradition, banana groves are not places of comfort, but places of fear. At night, people avoid them, whispering that spirits make their homes beneath the wide leaves. In Thai folklore, the ghost Nang Tani is said to dwell in banana trees. She appears as a beautiful woman in green, her form emerging from the stalk when the moon is high. To men wandering at night, she offers fruit, ripe bananas that seem irresistible. But those who accept risk, never returning, lured into the spirit world by her embrace. In Vietnamese tales, too, the banana tree is linked with wandering souls, its hollow stems believed to trap restless spirits. The fruit's shape and sweetness only deepen the temptation. Easy to peel, soft to the bite, bananas seem designed for indulgence. Monks and ascetics sometimes warned against overconsumption, seeing in them symbols of desire, too easy, too tempting, too dangerous for the discipline of the soul. Economically, bananas have grown into one of the world's most traded fruits, a $1 billion industry feeding millions. Yet even this abundance echoes its folklore, a fruit that tempts nations, reshaping lands and economies, drawing both life and exploitation. So the next time you peel a banana, remember the stories told beneath the trees where it first grew. To you, it may be a harmless snack. To others, it was once an invitation from the spirit world, the ghost's fruit of temptation, offered sweetly, but at a price far greater than hunger. Number 3. Pomegranate, the seeds of the underworld. In the ruins of Greece and Persia, carved on temple walls and painted onto ancient pottery, one fruit appears again and again, the pomegranate. Jewel-like in its crimson seeds, it has been praised as a symbol of fertility and abundance. Yet in myth, this fruit also carries a darker meaning, the fruit that bound a goddess to the underworld, and whose seeds were called the food of the dead. Geographically, pomegranates thrive in the dry climates of the Mediterranean, the Middle East, and Central Asia. Their tough outer rind protects clusters of translucent seeds, each shining like a drop of blood or a ruby. To taste one is to feel both sweetness and tartness, as though life and death themselves had mingled in your mouth. In Greek mythology, the pomegranate was the key to Persephone's fate. Abducted by Hades, the lord of the underworld, she tasted only 6 seeds, but that single act chained her to him for half the year, condemning the earth to winter whenever she descended below. From then on, pomegranate seeds became symbols of captivity, temptation, and the unbreakable ties between desire and loss. In other traditions, the fruit was no less ominous. Ancient Persians believed the pomegranate was a portal fruit, bridging the world of the living and the realm of spirits. In Christian symbolism, its blood-red seeds sometimes represented Christ's suffering, linking the fruit to sacrifice and mortality. And in medieval folklore, some whispered that its abundance of seeds was excessive, unnatural, a fruit of overwhelming desire that could corrupt the soul. Yet its danger lies in its beauty. To open a pomegranate is to split a heart, spilling hundreds of crimson seeds that gleam like forbidden jewels. It tempts with abundance, but every seed is also a chain, a reminder that indulgence binds as much as it delights. So, when you hold a pomegranate in your hands, remember, you are holding more than food. You are holding the seeds of the underworld, the fruit that lured a goddess into eternal captivity, the harvest that taught humanity that even in sweetness lies the taste of sorrow. Number 2, apple, the original sin. In every orchard, on every tree heavy with fruit, the apple seems innocent, crisp, sweet, and life-giving. Yet no other fruit carries a burden as heavy as this one. For in the imagination of the West, the apple is not simply food. It is temptation. It is disobedience. It is the fruit of the original sin. Though the Bible never names the forbidden fruit of Eden, centuries of art, poetry, and preaching gave it a shape and a color. The apple, red, polished, perfect in the hand, it became the symbol of Eve's choice. The moment she reached for knowledge and passed it to Adam, with that bite came shame, exile, and mortality itself. The apple became forever entwined with the devil's whisper and humanity's fall from grace. Geographically, apples flourish in temperate regions across Europe and Asia, their wild ancestors tracing back to the mountains of Kazakhstan. Cultivated into thousands of varieties, they range from green to gold to crimson. But it is the red apple, glowing like blood under the sun, that mythology seized upon. Too bright, too beautiful, a fruit that seemed designed to lure. The apple's place in folklore does not stop at Eden. In Greek mythology, Eris, goddess of discord, cast a golden apple into a wedding feast, sparking the Trojan War. In Norse legend, Idun's apples kept the gods youthful, a gift that could be stolen, corrupted, or lost. Over and over, the apple appears where temptation and chaos intertwine. Even in medieval Europe, superstition lingered. To offer an apple could be a gesture of love or of danger. Witches were said to hide curses in apples, poisoning unsuspecting victims. Snow White's tale is only the echo of an older fear, that beauty and sweetness can conceal death. Economically, apples became a fruit of abundance, a staple in markets and farms. Yet that very abundance may have deepened their symbolism. For what better disguise for temptation than something so common, so trusted, so easily within reach? So when you bite into an apple, remember its shadowed past. To you it may be sweetness and nourishment, but in myth, it is the forbidden choice, the fruit of the original sin, the first temptation, and the bite that changed humanity forever. Number 1, watermelon, the devil's feast. In the blazing heat of Africa, where the sun burns the soil and mirages shimmer on the horizon, there grows a fruit that seems like salvation itself, the watermelon, heavy, green-skinned, bursting with crimson flesh and black seeds. It promises life in the desert. Yet in folklore, stretching from the Nile to the villages of West Africa, this fruit has another name. To some, it was not a gift from the earth. It was the devil's feast. Geographically, watermelon, Citrullus lanatus, is native to Africa. Its wild ancestors still growing in the Kalahari Desert. Farmers cultivated it for its water-rich flesh, a natural reservoir in dry lands. A single fruit can weigh 10, 20, even 50 kilograms. Its round body like a vessel of life. Cut it open, and the sight is unforgettable. Red pulp, spilling juice like blood, studded with black seeds that resemble teeth. To ancient eyes, it was beautiful and terrifying. Folklore turned this beauty into dread. In some African traditions, people whispered that at night, watermelons could turn into vessels for spirits, rolling through villages like living things. Others believed the red flesh was cursed, a feast laid by the devil himself, meant to lure the hungry into his grasp. In parts of Eastern Europe, superstitions spread that watermelons left unharvested too long could become vampires, feeding not on blood, but on the life essence of those who dared to eat them. Its sweetness was temptation in its purest form. In times of famine, to cut open a hidden watermelon was like discovering treasure. But the stories warned of consequences. To indulge too greedily was to invite sickness, bad luck, even death. And so the watermelon became more than food. It became a test, a choice between survival and sin. Economically, watermelons spread far beyond Africa, carried into Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. Yet their image and folklore remained double-edged, life-giving in the day, cursed in the night, a fruit of abundance and of fear. So the next time you raise a slice of watermelon to your lips, savor its sweetness carefully, for behind its refreshing taste lies an older story of red flesh mistaken for blood, of seeds mistaken for demons' eyes, and of a table laid not for the living, but for the devil's feast. Outro. And so, our journey through the orchard of shadows comes to an end. We have walked past apples, once branded the fruit of original sin, blackberries cursed by Satan's spit, and nightshade berries shining like jewels of poison. We have wandered into banana groves haunted by spirits, and tasted pomegranates said to chain a goddess to the underworld. But at the very top, we found the fruit most unexpected, a fruit of summer joy, yet once feared as the devil's feast. It is here that myth reminds us what nourishes us can also terrify us. And even the sweetest harvest carries a shadow. If you've enjoyed uncovering these hidden stories, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share. Your support gives me the strength and motivation to keep searching through history's forgotten gardens and to bring you stories that balance on the edge between truth and legend. Because this was only one side of the story, for where there are fruits of the devil, there must also be fruits of the divine. Sweetness once feared, but also sweetness once blessed. In our next journey, we'll uncover those fruits, gifts said to heal, to protect, even to connect mortals with the heavens. But that, my friends, is a story for another night.